Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Now, I know I've taken a long time off, but we're back. And today, we're heading down to Knoxville, Tennessee to talk with my friend Chris Goodrich from the Tennessee Nationals. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today we're heading down to Knoxville, Tennessee to visit with Chris Goodrich, the head dude, head honcho, owner, founder of the Tennessee Nationals. So before we get too far into this thing, we're recording this today. It's second week of September. If you're new here, you can go back. There's probably 50 plus episodes. I really took the whole shutdown off from creating podcasts. There was just honestly, it was two reasons. The main reason is I would call myself the primary caregiver for about almost 6 months of my 4-year-old, and I was just chasing him everywhere. The second reason is everybody was sitting at home creating content. There was so much noise out there. Some of it was really good, and man, a lot of it was really bad. And so I just didn't want these conversations to get kind of lost in the noise. So school has started. Kids are back in school. My kid is in person school. I know some of the areas around here are doing virtual. A lot of areas are doing virtual. I think we're going to talk about that probably a little bit to see what's happening down in Knoxville. But that's why Travel Ball Talk has been kind of silent for the last 5 months. So I'm happy to get back into it. We got a bunch of episodes coming, but today we're gonna learn all about Chris and learn about the Tennessee Nationals. The first thing I'll tell you guys is I actually just made a visit down there a little less than a month ago, and we actually filmed most of the older guys from the Nationals. So if you go to playinschool.com/Nats, N-A-T-S, you're going to see film of probably about 40 guys. So you can see exactly what Chris is working with down there. So with that tremendously long intro, Chris, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Rich, thanks for having me. Man, it was great to have you a few weeks ago. We just got done saying before we got on the air here that the work you guys do is tremendous. It's it helps kids. That sometimes gets lost in this, but yeah, I think what you do is great, man. So humbled to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man. So you and I hooked up, I don't know, I think it was like pre-COVID. I think we now measure things in pre-COVID and post-COVID. So it was early on. It was kind of January, February, right at the beginning of this year. And you had said, hey, we're going to do something in August with you guys. And I said, awesome. Put it on the calendar. And then the world came to an end. And I was like, hey, man, there's no school. I can get down there in April. And you were like, all right, let's try and do it. Well, okay, May. Okay, let's try and do it. And then June and July. And then finally, as originally planned, it happened in August. And that was a great trip. And man, we were so lucky to get that facility you lined up for us, because it had it was turf, and we got a torrential downpour down there in the Smoky Mountains the night before. And had we not had that high school field with the turf, we'd have been totally washed out. So that was awesome.
Wouldn't have pulled it off. And it looked like with the able to access the football facility too, which was nice. And all the final product is what we care about, and it turned out great. So yeah, thanks again. It was meant to be.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I think from day one, you kind of saw that. I did see a huge value in video for these guys. We did it on our own, just with 2 teams a year ago before you got involved with us, and just kind of did it piecemeal. Put it together and would send it out. So it was nice to put a little bit more professional effort behind it this year. think it's going to help these kids over the next 12 months for sure.
Well, let's back up a second, and kind of learn about your background a little bit, and then I guess that naturally will lead us into the background of how the Tennessee Nationals came to be. So why don't I just kind of stop talking and let you fill us in on your story.
Yeah, and I always joke with people as I'm talking about the mission of the Tennessee Nationals and what we're trying to do, that the most unimpressive thing is my background in this. So I played baseball and basketball at local high school here, Farragut High School, which is, Farragut has become really the preeminent program in the state of Tennessee for high school baseball. Won 11 state championships over the last couple decades. So just played a semester basically at Tennessee Tech and had injury problems and gave up the game and really just got away from it. Just went about life. Coached a little bit of basketball when I was in college, but just kind of got away from the game. And about 6 or 7 years ago, when my wife and I moved back to Knoxville to start our family, started helping out with the Farragut Middle School baseball team just as a way to give back. Loved baseball and wanted to get back into it. And one thing led to another. Just being in travel ball for the last, 5 or 6 years has spawned kind of this vision for what we're trying to do. So as you can see, I'm not a Major League Baseball player. Barely played college, but I've just been around a lot of really good coaches, been around a lot of really good players that have gone on to play professionally in college. So, just been around the game. I feel like I know the game, and I have a marketing and PR background. I've been worked for a PR agency and was in the marketing and PR game for several years. So, it's just a unique background for somebody that's running a travel ball organization for sure. And but I think has benefited me in the long run for sure.
There's this thing that kind of goes around every once in a while about how you have to have played this thing at a high level to coach this thing. And I just laugh. So those coaching and playing don't have anything to do with each other. And I won't say his name because I don't want to give this guy any attention. But there's a former big leaguer who, first of all, I had never heard of, who is internet famous right now. All he does is bully coaches he doesn't like. Guys with approaches that are different than what he prefers. The irony is, and I kind of scrolled his account recently, and I go, this guy's not once put out a single positive coaching idea. It's all tearing others down. And I'm just going, this is a big leaguer, right? So or a former big leaguer, and if your ability to hit the ball equated your ability to coach somebody else to hit the ball, then this guy should be the best, right? And it's so false. Right. It's so wrong. It's in this particular guy. It's pretty disgusting, the stuff I see him put out, and he thinks he's cool. And actually, a lot of people kind of he's kind of like internet famous right now, or internet infamous, I would say.
He has a cult following, right?
A little bit of a cult following, yeah. And I don't know the guy. I'm sure he's a great guy, but I'm just like, man. So if being a great player equated being a good coach, he should be a good coach instead of, and he should be out there coaching instead of just making fun of people who are out there trying to coach. Your professional background, I think, is actually way more applicable in the travel ball arena in today's in today's landscape than maybe even being able to teach a kid to swing a bat. Because the reality is that they're about 15 or 16. These guys, you kind of are like swinging the bat the way you're going to swing the bat. Sometimes there are drastic mechanical changes, but most of the time not. I mean, my swing today is exactly how it was when I swung the bat at 20. It was almost exactly how I swung the bat at 15. Almost exactly how I swung the bat at 10. There were drastic changes. So being able to change a kid's physical mechanics dramatically is probably less important than being able to effectively communicate and market a prospect. And so your PR and marketing background are huge assets that you should definitely be, when you're talking to families about bringing them in, you should definitely be pointing to that in a major way. So,
and I think that's what, we've talked about it before. I think that's just what's missing here. And that's where I've been, I feel like I've been successful, right? Is we're trying to build a culture that's a positive one that allows kids to be really successful. I mean, that's it. Whatever that takes, that's what we're trying to do. And that takes a certain kind of coach. I feel like we do a pretty good job as far as structuring things and making personnel decisions and rosters and all that stuff, but it's not necessarily what I'm the most proud of. It's the relationships we have with our guys, and how do you get 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds to perform and be motivated to do it in the summer after a long high school season? It's tough. It really is. It's difficult. So to me, that's the focus, right? It's making them feel like they're a part of something bigger, to where they're motivated to do it, and you build a community, and whether I played in professionally or not, just it doesn't have a factor.
Yeah.
It's in the relationships I have with our guys. So spot on with your point.
Let's talk about the Nationals specifically, and talk about kind of how you came to be and how the foundation of the program started.
Yeah, that's humble beginnings. I had mentioned earlier, I was helping out with the Farragut Middle School program, and we had a kid in the program that was playing on a travel team called the Tennessee Nationals, and they had a unique circumstance where their coach was their coach's son that had no longer had interest in playing baseball, was really a good basketball player, was going to focus on basketball, and the team was getting ready to go to Cooperstown in a few weeks. So they're kind of stuck without a coach. I had a good relationship with this kid, and I think they threw a Hail Mary and decided, hey, come watch us play and see what you think, and see if you would have any interest in taking it over. So I decided to take the team on, and we played a little warm-up tournament in Nashville, and 2 weeks later, I'm in a bunk. I'm in a bunk with 12 kids and 2 coaches that I don't know in Cooperstown, New York, sleeping together. So we finished second. Cooperstown made it all the way to the championship game, and the rest is history. We really just operated as an independent team, until last summer. Last summer we had 2 teams, 16s and 17s, and really started to communicate our mission of bringing together the best talent in East Tennessee to practice together and train together and showcase together. And so we did private workouts leading into the fall season this year, just to, hoping that people were believing in what we were selling. And we've got 6 teams now rolling from 13U through 18U in the fall. And doing that in the middle of, the COVID stuff has been, it's just been humbling, man. It's been pretty cool. Exceeded our expectations, I think, this early.
Well, I want to pause for 1 second and talk about Cooperstown. I've never done it. It wasn't really a thing when I was coming around as a player, the way it is today. So you may recognize the name Rich Graham. He runs the Virginia Cardinals. We've had him on the show previously. I was just over at his facility filming his guys. recently, and he's, like any facility, they got posters and pictures of all their past guys on the wall everywhere.
Yep.
And they had a poster of it was a Cooperstown like team photo, and there were some pretty good players on that team as 12-year-olds. Like the team ended up being led by all dudes, including some projectable, future top draft picks. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of Cooperstown?" And he flat out, without hesitation, said it was the absolute best baseball experience he's ever had in his life. This is a guy that played professional baseball. He played Division I baseball. He's coached first rounders. He's won the perfect game underclass with his squad, and it was Cooperstown with 12-year-olds that he. And it was without hesitation. He says there's not even an experience that comes close to it. It was so Cooperstown got quite the testimonial from Rich Graham. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. So maybe one day I'll get to go do that with some kids. So.
Yeah, here's my take on Cooperstown. Just the pageantry of it, and it's so inclusive of everybody. So you've got 108 teams there, and most of the time you're dining together, and everybody goes in the same single elimination bracket together after, it's just very inclusive, really, really short fences. So you see a lot of home runs. That's my only negative, that from a baseball guy perspective, for 12U kids, 200-foot fences. I mean, it's basically, there's not a whole lot of coaching or managing to it. I mean, you're hitting singles off the wall, or you're hitting it over the wall. So that part of it is a little quirky for me, as a baseball guy. But man, just the pageantry of it and the inclusion of everyone. I mean, we're in the championship game against Chino Hills out of California, and there's probably 1,000 people in that little stadium, and it's pretty cool. It was just a heck of a week, and just so weird that I was doing that 2 to 3 weeks into meeting these kids. So it was something I'll never forget.
That's pretty cool. All right, so let's return back down here to Knoxville, Tennessee. First of all, we need an update. Breaking news yesterday. I turn on. I'm flipping through Twitter, and there's a full-grown adult tiger on the loose in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I tell my wife, she goes, "Well, it's probably the zoo, right?" So I go, "I don't know. Let me look." No, the zoo's tiger is accounted for. This thing's just walking down the street. Did we capture? First of all, did the tiger get anybody? Second of all, did the tiger get caught? Did they catch this thing? And third of all, did they figure out where the tiger came from? Are there updates? This is really important.
This is important, and we have as a community, we've come together and decided not to share any details of the tiger. It's funny. There was speculation last night that, well, is it a tiger? Is it a bobcat? Is it a? I mean,
dude, that was not a bobcat. I saw the video. This was a tiger, a full-grown adult tiger.
The tiger has its own Twitter account already.
Of course it does.
The tiger in Knoxville.
You're going to have to change the name. I know the Tennessee Nationals was pretty good for a while, but I think we need to switch to the Tigers at this point.
Yeah, it's a SEC joke run wild for sure.
All right. Well, I'll be checking back on this. This is very important. Very important.
Yeah, Knoxville tends to be the center of attention for interesting reasons sometimes. But no, it was a good joke last night. You liked it.
All right. Well, I was hoping you were going to tell me, they caught it. They know the guy. He lives in your neighborhood or whatever. But we'll move on. We'll move on. So, we want to talk a little bit. recruiting stuff, and I'm curious to get some of your takes. You are kind of new to this thing, so I'm wondering about what are some of the things you're thinking about, and some of the things you're maybe doing, especially wrapping in some of your professional background.
You there? Can you hear me, Rich?
I am. Yeah, did blanked out for a second. I was saying, I want to find out a little bit more about some of the things you're seeing, especially through, this maybe a full cycle of going through it with some of your players, and maybe how you're wrapping in some of your professional, that PR marketing background into the recruiting landscape for your players that you're trying to market.
Sure. Yeah, and that's for me, it's a huge focus, I think, in what we're doing is, just a group of parents and kids that need the education piece. They really just need somebody to help guide them, but also to just work on their behalf in the background. And so, my days of marketing and PR, having to pitch media and develop relationships with media and vendors and all that good stuff. And now that I've been in the travel game for the last, we've had kids getting signed for the last 3 years. It's the same thing, man. It's developing relationships with with guys that this is their livelihood, right? I mean, they're looking for the best kids, the best people. So it's developing trust with those guys. I mean, really, because of our focus, we really want kids, the best players in East Tennessee. So naturally, the schools around us, we want to have really good relationships with those folks. But how far out can we take it? I think the talent is here for us to fill a lot of rosters across the country. But it's really having just great relationships with folks here in the Southeast, especially, and that doesn't take much. It's you give them you give them an opportunity to get some good players, and you be very respectful of what they do and understand that it is their livelihood. And for me, the marketing part of it, the promotion part of the kids, which I know this is something you believe in, it's a multi-pronged approach, right? I mean, you need to talk to coaches. They need to come see your guys play in a game setting. They might need to see your guys in a camp or a showcase setting to get numbers on different skill sets. You're going to do, we use social media to market our guys. I have direct communication with coaches in terms of sending video and then just talking to them about the intangibles. So, when I talk to people about what is our approach to recruiting, we use several tools. For me, the play in school thing is huge because I can share, here's the skill set, here's some in-game highlights of the kid, and then I can talk to that coach about the intangible stuff as well when you get into money and all that. So, it's funny. I think my background has almost prepared me for this. Being able to organize. I was talking to you earlier. Right now, we're working on very specific needs for coaches for in the 22 class, or the 23 class, 24 class, and being able to address those needs. We have our players on working with them now, and when they need to be contacting coaches, all of our juniors, now that September 1st has passed, they can communicate with coaches directly. So for me, the recruiting piece of this is a huge part of it. You got to have good baseball players and good teams, but again, the recruiting piece is just something I think is missing in our market. So we're in a good spot right now with the Division I dead period. Obviously, has thrown a wrench in a lot of things, and but for us, the message has been, let's keep playing baseball. Let's continue to develop as players, so that when these guys do come out, you're ready to go. And we've got a library of highlights to share with them. So it's been a bump in the road. I feel bad for the kids because there's certainly been opportunities lost, but it's not because of the tactics that we're using. That's for sure.
One thing you mentioned about being in a good spot, I think you say that figuratively, but as you and I talked about when I was down in Knoxville, you guys are in a good spot, literally, geographically.
That's right. That's right.
If you're listening and if it's never really dawned on you, pull up the map of where Knoxville is and draw a circle around Knoxville about 3 hours out, and you begin to realize, holy smokes, it's you're basically 3 hours to, I don't know, half the college programs in the country, it seems like. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but not far off. The number of schools within a short drive from Knoxville is awesome. And so it's like the proximity principle, man. You're close by, and that helps. So I'll just pull it up, and I'll give people who are maybe haven't looked at a map in a while. You're spitting distance to Atlanta, Chattanooga, Nashville, Lexington, Kentucky. Louisville's not that far away. The other direction, now we're talking about the upstate of South Carolina, the Charlotte area. Winston-Salem, Greensboro is not so far away. You go kind of northeast, and now all of a sudden you're up into Blacksburg, Roanoke, up 81. It truly is. I mean, it's an incredible number of schools within just a short drive. So the proximity gives you tremendous access for your players to get to programs that are not across the country, and more importantly, your guys are going to be able to play in front of a variety of coaches from a ton of different states that are all close by.
You just I need to have you go on tour with me and give that speech right there. No, I tell our guys all the time, and we're blessed too. I mean, not just from a Division I perspective, but even Division II programs. One of the top junior colleges in the country, and Walter State is right in our backyard here. So that's part of this. Is hopefully when this thing passes and we can all get back to normal, is we just need somebody in this market to better organize our talent. The talent's here, and that's what the Tennessee Nationals. That's why we were born. That's what we're doing. So it lends itself to all that. You got two main interstates, 240 and 75, and a bunch of folks can get to, and so we're in a good spot in a number of different ways.
That's good, man. What I'm kind of curious. What do you have cooking? We're right here at the beginning of the fall season. What are some of the things you're planning on doing with your rosters this fall?
Yeah, so we like I had mentioned to you, we've got 6 groups now from 13U to 18U. So it's been a totally different ball game. Last week was our first weekend where we had all six groups going. The 13s and 14s in Hoover, and they fared well, and then our other 4 teams at East Cobb. And we're so busy figuring out coaches, which coaches are going where and doing rosters. I don't think we ever at any point last week just took like a step back and a breath and realized that, hey, this is this is the day that we had kind of talked about for a while, is what if we can actually grow this thing? And so to go from 2 teams to 6 teams, it's taken me until this week to just like take a minute to realize what we were able to accomplish in a short period of time. So it was a good weekend. Guys played well. 13U won their tournament. 17U guys won their tournament at East Cobb. We had one snafu. with our 16U team. Boy, it's tough to talk about, man. I don't even know if I can do it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's called the setup there.
Is that a teaser?
Maybe, yeah.
Podcast teaser. So follow me here. So we had 2 16U teams in the event.
Okay.
And I'm comfortable talking about this openly. It's a baseball thing.
Yeah.
So we have 2 16U teams in the event, right? So our white team is they sneak into the playoffs, so they're going to play Sunday at 12:30. Well, our red team is playing their consolation game at 9:00 in the morning on Sunday.
Okay.
So the red team plays their game. They win. They have a nice 2-1 weekend. Their tournament's over. They're going to the house. Well, we have, and again, we've had this happen to us hundreds of times over the years, so that's why we did it. But we had a couple of guys. We wanted to use a pitcher on that white team in the playoff game. So we had a few kids from the red team come to the white team for the playoff game. You follow me? You got me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're everything's working as planned. Great energy in the dugout. Good juice. We're up 7-0 in the 6th inning. And again, keep in mind, I'm down in Hoover with the 13 and 14-year-old kids. I'm not up in East Cobb with these guys. I get a text from my coach that says, "Hey man, there's a lot of stirring going on with the scorekeeper over here in this other team. You might want to check your phone." About 5 minutes later, I get a call that says they've come out on the field and disqualified us for having kids on 2 different rosters in the same age group in the same tournament. So you talk about not the way you want an opening weekend to go. Naturally had some parents upset for a variety of reasons, and rightfully so. But man, it was interesting how maybe 5 years from now, when the Tennessee Nationals have more teams and we have a little more clout, we wouldn't be called out on that. But it was an egg on the face moment, man. Disqualified. Never had something like that happen to me before. Meanwhile, our 17U team's playing in the championship on a team that's got like 27 kids on their roster somehow. So it's
exactly.
It was really tough for me to swallow. We support Perfect Game a ton. And again, it's our fault for not double checking the rule or whatever. And maybe people just haven't gotten called on it or something like that before, but it was a tough one to swallow just because of the kids, right? I mean, we brought a couple of kids over, so that means 1 or 2 kids. Playing time's a little bit different, but we're getting ready to play in a semifinal game the next day, and then it gets cut off like that. So you talk about when, starting a travel ball organization and your opening weekend, things are going great. That was a kick to the you-know-what.
Yeah, that's man, I can kind of see both sides of the problem or the situation. And on the one hand, it's like, who cares? Just let them play, or just kids. And it's like, hey, we brought in a couple extra arms to help us get through this thing, so that we don't have to abuse some other, some kid who's already thrown. On the other hand, hey, there's some rules. We got to play within the rules, I guess. I don't know. That's
right. So to answer your question, it's we got things rolling this past weekend. It was amazing this summer. Both teams ended up playing right around 30 games. So we genuinely had a full summer season. And now we're kind of kicking things off for the fall last week. And then the 2 16U teams I'm going with to Hoover this weekend. And the other ones are at Lake Point next weekend. So it's, despite all of this, we're rolling. We're playing baseball, and the community's buying into this thing. Just a bunch of good things last week. Players really performing well and putting themselves on the map, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's
kind of about the current state of travel baseball, and trying to get the kind of the good, the bad, the ugly. In your opinion, and always got to clarify. I don't really think there's a whole lot of bad in travel baseball. Obviously, I run a podcast called Travel Ball Talk, so I am a big fan of travel ball. But sometimes, I think there's opportunities for improvement. So, this is obviously the last 6 months have been unusual or different. Although if you scrolled my Twitter account, you kind of couldn't tell there was anything that different, except for some of the college coaches couldn't be at the games. So I'm kind of curious. You're the first guest since I've come back to the show. Let's pick your brain a little bit and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the current state of travel ball.
Ooh, what do you want to start with? The good,
whatever you prefer.
The good. I'll start with the good. I talk to my coaches about this all the time because ultimately we're try to be talent evaluators as we're building these rosters, but I'm just blown away, even at like 13 and 14 years old, at the talent level of kids, skill sets. You hear coaches talk all the time about tools. The tools on kids now are just, I'm sure you can attest to it because you go all over the country filming kids, but I just continue to get blown away by the talent level of kids that we see and face. And
yeah, I agree.
And then on the flip side of it, to watch our guys perform against it, compete and do well against that kind of talent. So I just, from a baseball guy perspective, I just continue to get blown away with that. I see a lot of teams in travel ball. I think it's just because there's not rec ball per se anymore. It's just travel ball is what it is. Some people call it tournament baseball, whatever you want to call it. You just see so many more teams now, and I think that's why the big boys are trying to do a lot of this affiliate stuff where they're franchising out teams. There's kind of it seems like there's a little bit more of a push or a move to consolidate, maybe for that very reason. But a lot of teams, a lot of competition, a lot of talent, and a lot of opportunities for kids. I think it's become difficult I think where we've been successful is we try to be a little different in that we try to build a team, a genuine team, right? We have local kids, so we get to practice and train together and have a little bit of rapport, and have a little bit of culture within our team. So that allows us to beat some of these teams that just, quite frankly, there is no culture. They show up and play tournaments together, and most of them think about themselves, and they only care about what their stats look like and if they made the all-tournament team, and they're on to the next one. So that's my only negative would be it's just become increasingly difficult to keep kids and families happy and thus loyal. I don't know that they have to be loyal. Nobody says that they have to. But there's just not, I don't see a lot of a lot of really good just together teams out there as much anymore. It just seems like we're running into a lot of teams that are just thrown together with prospects and skill sets and that's it. But I love I love going to these big events. This is mostly what we play in are really high level events with a lot of teams. And so you still get the pageantry of the uniforms and the unbelievable high level of talent. We've been to Hoover and Lake Point, East Cobb, some of these places. It's just such a high level of ball. It's incredible. So that's my long-winded answer for the baseball itself. Is good. I still see, now you might correct me on this, Rich, but we still see teams bunting the crap out of it. We still see teams stealing bags.
Yeah.
Hitting and running. I know
when
it's
you're
not
playing
when
you're playing in an event, and there's when it's not just hey, we got 3 games this weekend and there's no prize at the end. You're not going to see that stuff. But when you're playing an event and it's championship style, then yeah, you're going to lay down some bunts and you're going to hit and run and you might steal some because you want to win. And that's, I tip my hat to you for playing in a lot of events like that because, quite honestly, a lot of the events aren't set up that way. And
right.
if for all the positives and the efficiencies of this current format of travel baseball, sort of the detriment is sort of this loss of killer instinct to go out and win. Right. So you know, and that's sort of what I was thinking about while you were talking about this. There's a sophistication at a way younger age right now from a skill set standpoint. You're talking about, you know, you see some little kids with like really high level swings. You watch some of these kids field ground balls and you go, man, you look like a big leaguer. The flip side is sometimes just because of this format of travel baseball, there sometimes is a lack of baseball acumen or you know the in-game knowledge. You know, because maybe they haven't seen enough situations to you know to have experience, and the experience is what leads to that baseball knowledge. So it's sort of a kind of a double-edged sword where the skill set is so beautiful, and then all of a sudden you go, man, this. I mean, I've heard stories of young guys getting to the big leagues and having such little baseball knowledge. It's incredible. And, you know, part of that is the showcase world that we live in, I suppose. So, you know, on the championship style, man, it's going to put a kid it's going to press a kid a little bit. It's going to push them a little bit. So that's
what, you know, we've always kind of, I realize, you know, ultimately we'll lose a kid or a family because of it, but it's, you know, we do think that trying to win, you know, everybody on that team giving it everything they have that game to try to win a baseball game is the point. You know, that's part of development for us. You know, it's not just development is not just in a lab or in our cages or on the mound in a bullpen. For us, it's very much exactly what you just talked about. It's putting these, and that's, for me, that's why we play in the fall, is I want my guys to have, even if it's just one or two experiences in the fall where they're in a really tough spot, or, you know, and they fail, or they're in a really tough spot and they have success. That's good. I mean, that's worth the money. That's something we build on, makes you better for the spring, makes you better for the summer. That's at least our philosophy. And again, I think more and more coaches, I think the want to win, you know, that competitive factor is becoming more and more of an asset. Before, it used to be, if you didn't have that, you had no chance. Now I think it's you know, no different than a plus arm. Having that plus competitiveness is something that coaches are looking for. So I want our program to be known for that, is that when we go into these tournaments where, you know, it's not just about a couple of dudes, it's about all those guys pulling together to try to win, to try to achieve something. And somehow that, for me, has gotten lost a little bit.
It's, you know, while you're talking about that, I was sitting here thinking about the juxtaposition about how we talk about how valuable failure is, and baseball is a game of failure and overcoming failure. And you hear these lines over and over again, but there's literally, if you think about it, at a showcase, there's no opportunity for failure and growth. I don't think.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure somebody could say I'm wrong, but if you're just gonna go out and run a 60 and field 7 ground balls and take BP and throw a bullpen, there's not a whole lot of failure in there. There's no losses. There's no, you know, that kid just stole second base on me, or, you know, whatever. You know, or we got knocked out of the, you know, out of the tournament and pool play. There's none of that, and it's, you know, so you hear everybody talking about, well, you learn from failure, you get better from failure, you grow from failure. So, man, we, you know, it seems like you're embracing this, that style more than let's just go out and showcase for the sake of showcasing.
Yeah, and I mean, we do things that are, don't get me wrong, like we we try to do things for the kids. So, I mean, as far as pitching goes, like we may chop up a game into 2 or 3 pitchers that are really good versus we may use 3 versus 2 one game in the light of getting 3 guys seen. But, we're we're trying to win a baseball game at all costs. I mean, if we come home without winning our pool, without making it to bracket play, every tournament we enter, that's a goal for us is to, we don't play consolation games. So it's, again, some people are not going to agree with that, and we're not, don't get me wrong. Like we love on our kids. We have a balanced relationship with them. And they understand the expectation and they love it. The overwhelming majority that are just competitive baseball kids, that's what a lot of parents don't understand. If they would talk to their kids, they love it. They embrace it. It's been good. And I that's how I want us to be different.
Right on. Well, there was, we talked about a lot of things in there. Do you, over the last, year or so, have you seen anything that left your head scratching? And, from your perspective, it would be an opportunity to make some sort of tweak or improvement in this travel ball format that we're currently seeing. Is there any room for improvement? If you had that magic wand.
That's a great question. I know for our organization, what we want to do a lot more of is partnering with other organizations to do events, even in the summertime, where you're going to, and I think we talked about this too, is, we go to Virginia Tech or we go to Tennessee with 2 or 3 other organizations that we're close with, and gives you an opportunity to control the game a little bit, but still be competitive. And, because you're playing against really good teams.
Yeah.
The one thing I just feel like there's going to be a breaking point somewhere, where, you go to some of these events and you're playing one game a day, and most of them are not at the facility that you thought you were going to play at. At some point we got to get back to almost old school Legion ball where, for me, it's a huge pride thing that we've got Tennessee kids. I want to go play, Louisiana Knights or the Georgia Scorpions, or I want there to be a regional rivalry there. So I think for us, you're going to see a lot more of that on our schedule, as we move forward. We're always going to support Perfect Game and Prep Baseball Report and those guys, but
those big events have their place, and those are, winning one of those or making it to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8.
Yep.
Those things are great. But
yep.
you almost look at that as kind of like from a recruiting standpoint, that's almost kind of like what I would call like mass marketing versus
right.
like a surgical precision, strategic target marketing of let's take 18 dudes from our organization up the road and find
Yep.
2 other clubs with, kids who are matched up evenly, and we can put, 60 dudes that are great fits for this program right in front of them. And take it right to them. And that's more of a kind of a target marketing sort of approach. The flip side is, or another piece of that part is, everybody talks about how expensive travel baseball is. And it seems to me that it's not the baseball part. It's not the team playing for the team isn't necessarily the expensive part. It's the travel part that's the expensive part. It's the endless hotels and the endless eating out. And so sometimes mixing in some of these, we got a 3-team doubleheader set up kind of situation is, it's a way to save a bunch of money on a weekend, right?
Yeah, and this year we typically try to host an event in the fall and one in the spring and the summer. And so we had an event set up for Memorial Day this year, 10 teams, 5 in each of our age groups, ready to rock, and obviously had to cancel it this year. But what's great is you get a couple of the Georgia teams to come up because, well, they don't get to travel.
Oh yeah.
They don't get to travel during the summer, so we've got a few teams, organizations down there that love to come up because
That's
they don't
hilarious.
get to actually offer their.
I never thought about that. Those Atlanta teams never go on the road, do they?
They don't.
Everybody comes to them.
Yeah, to pop up to Knoxville 2.5 hours away is a dream come true for them, and play on some nice fields and get some good competition. It's a no-brainer. So I just think that I think you might see more of that. It just feels like since Perfect Game kind of pulled out a Lake Point down here, and them and PBR kind of going head-to-head, it's I think the market's just gotten a little bit, fragmented. You got teams that might be in PBR, half of them are in PBR one week, and half of them are in Perfect Game the next, where it was a little more, I think, one-sided. So it's, what you said earlier is exactly right. We want to be a little bit more strategic in the tournaments that we're playing in, and still play really good competition.
Well, good stuff, man. Do you do you have any sort of last thoughts here before we wrap up? Anything that's on your mind that you want to get off your chest?
Oof, I don't think so, man. You've been gracious. Thanks for your time. I know we're the new kids on the block, but again, I think you'll see that we're going to have a bunch of success here, man. We're lucky. I think the community. My prediction that the community needed this is so far proven to be true, which is we just need our really high level kids in town to stay here, to train together and allow us to develop together, and that way we can showcase together in the summer and in the fall and throughout the winter, and hopefully see you 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, you nailed something right there when you're talking about earlier. You talked about, hey, we're playing in a bunch of these big events, and with the championship at the end, and the playoff style sort of thing, and you're seeing bunting and stealing and hitting and running, and the teams that how do I phrase this? Let me back up. The teams that have camaraderie generally are the teams that have locally based players that have the opportunity to practice together. And so when you get into those events, all of a sudden, this is baseball, man. It can come down to one inning, or it can come down to one play. And
yep.
And having that camaraderie, while it doesn't guarantee you a championship, it sure can help when you're talking about a week-long event, and so that's a huge advantage for organizations like y'all's that are going to be able to to keep those kids from the area, that you can do the workouts. Huge. I think that's a huge positive for any organization. So. Well, good stuff, man. I'm going to make sure I always mess this up, but I should always put at the top of the show that this can be found over at playinschool.com/Goodrich, and I'll put Chris's contact info and Twitter page and all that stuff in the show notes on that link. So playinschool.com/Goodrich will have all that, man. I appreciate you coming on with me today, and once I hang up, I'm gonna go check on the update with the Tiger, because I want to know what's going on.
Please, please, yes.
I'll definitely be tweeting that out. Man, I appreciate it. It's been
absolutely
been a lot of fun getting to know you and the other guys from the club. So we'll talk soon, man.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, man.
You got it. Have a good one.
See ya.
I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter @playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.